Recordings on. We're live. Hi, welcome to the QE Tools workshop. I would like to talk with you today about soft fails, which we already did in previous episode. But now this is the 2023 edition of openQA fails. What are they? How to use into limitations? And of course, I'm eagerly forward to hear from your experience. So, who would like to give it a try? What are soft fails in openQA? What would you say?
Those are failures which we um, expect.
Okay.
We have a ticket for them, and we just record that they happened, but we not fail
Right.
and continue testing.
Not fail, as in there's a distinction between failures, which can also cause a test to stop, and soft fails don't necessarily need that. I'm referring to the official definition from OpenQA docs. If I take a look at soft fail, it's defined at least one known non-critical issue has been found. Non-critical meaning here, what you meant is that it doesn't fail the job at this point, and where there are different means to achieve a soft fail, which is that there could be that there are workaround needles in place, or a soft failure has been recorded explicitly via record soft failure, or a job failure has been ignored explicitly via a job label and hence had been turned from a failed job into a soft fail. So, okay, when to use them? You already stated if that's something that's expected. So there are different means to put soft failures in place. Let's take a look if we see examples. If I go to, let's say, the latest tumbleweed results, then overall I see 226 passed, meaning that in those green bubbles, there is not a single soft failure and also not a failure. Only then we can end up pass job. And we can see the majority of jobs are passed, which is nice. There are 22 soft fails and 27 failed. So a failed job, can a failed job also include soft failures? You say.
Yes,
But why is the job failed then?
because it does not include only soft failures; it also failed. I mean,
Right. So at least one additional failure was recorded next to a soft failure, which is turning a job into failed. So as you might judge from the name, failed is more severe. A soft failed, meaning that whenever there is a failure, then any soft failed is overruled and the overall job result ends up as failed. It goes something like this. If everything is passed, then a job turns out passed. If there's at least one soft failure, then a job is recorded as soft failure. Unless there's at least one failure, then a job ends up as failed. Unless the job incomplete, because incomplete means like, well, we couldn't execute the job correctly, which could be happening very early when we haven't even started the job, or also somewhere in the middle, and then we also disregard any failures or soft failures that brought it up. So let's take a look for the soft failed here. So what we see here is some yellow bubbles. Let's just pick the first example. So we have this yellow border around here. Soft fails meaning that one soft fail in here. If we take a look, then we have all those modules which are passed, and then there's one soft failed. Now, why is this module soft failed? Who can tell? That's why does this overall module result turn into soft failed? Who would like to explain that?
Can you click at the soft fail icon?
Okay,
At the
right.
soft fail.
So the module fails because there's one step which is recording soft failure. So what do we
Yes,
see here?
that the keyboard shortcut does not work as expected in Gnote.
Right. So where
And we
does
have a
this
bug.
text come from? And we have a bug. Where does this text come
From the records of fail
from? Yes.
routine.
So let me just reference that from the documentation. Well, in the test API, that's already a nice alternative. Records of failure. That's a command that can be used from the test API for the record of failure on the current test module result. The result will still be counted as success. Use this to mark where workarounds are applied. Takes an optional read recorded in the log file. And then it also mentioned alternatives with force soft failure or record info. So here we have that string with a nice link to the according bug on Bugzilla. If you take a look, then we can see that there is this bug. Oh, it's actually not that old, so it's just from October this year. Yeah, and so I would say that's a valid observation. Okay. Let's see. Actually use it directly. Do we actually see it directly here? No, we don't see it directly here. So I assume because that module is like very easy, then that record software call is in either node launch or node search and close. Would know how I would be able to find the code location for that record software. How would you do that? I can think of two ways. One way is to take into the log file, and I guess there could be multiple soft failures, but if I just search for that reference, that should be unique. So what we see here is that we are in node search all, which called node search and close, which we find in X11 tab. And that one is calling work. An alternative would be, because here we know that the test was on the history of the, I'm thinking of a shorter name to refer to that distance, because just putting all starting letters of the individual words together. How do you like Osto? Or it would be Beto. Oh, think about that. So I could just take a look here for code search, and I also find that one place. Closing that. Now, are there more soft failures in that? Oh, we have look. Yes, there are. There is this one, soft failure workaround for another bug. That one looks like a same. It was mentioned workaround needle. How would that look like? Knows how would a workaround needle look like, a soft failure needle? Would look like this. You see those colored border around the needle, and that one means that the needle check itself was passed, green. If that border would be in the same color as the soft failed, then would know that we would have a workaround needle. We want to take a look. The needles repository of was all those of them. I could take a look. Workaround. And an example here. Just load a workaround 5864 has this value. Just do not override resetting. Custom boot partition, really nice text name workaround. So know that, and we have a ticket reference. How would I be able to find tests where this needle matches? Anybody knows? Let me log in. And here, at least as an administrator, if I search for that needle, then I can see where the needle was used, like where tests were running that were trying to match against it. And the last match was from 20 hours ago. That directly leaves test. We take a look into the test results. That's 15.6 upgrading from Leap 42.1, which is impressive. And if scroll down here, then here you see example which orange border around the actual needle check. There is also a soft felt which shows exactly the text which we have seen find on that needle. And we also see that mentioned here. In the needle UI, it looks like this. That there you have this checkbox set and then that description. And for that, it's just like a standard needle where we are just looking on what the screen looks like. And if a certain iteration is detected, then yeah, it will show up like that. So, question? Yeah, Felix, right?
Quick question. If there are two needles and the, let's say one needle matches 100% but is a workaround, and the second needle matches only 95% but is not a workaround, which of the two needles has preference?
So that's a very good question. Unfortunately, you don't see that pull down menu because that's exactly the example that we have here, that this needle matches 100%, and the next best match is a 95% not soft failure needle. But even if there would be two needles matching 100%, the soft failure needle is always preferred.
The soft failure is preferred.
Yes. So
okay.
The idea behind that is the following: that if let's assume you have a screen and it just works, okay? But so you know the needle would actually match. The test continues, but a bug on the screen. Maybe just a visual bug, which is not really impacting the functional behavior of the program, right? What you could do is you could delete the already working needle and replace it by a soft failure needle to track the bug that reported. Or the lazy approach is to just define the soft failure needle on top, which is maybe more restrictive. So let's say we are creating a new needle and we found that there's some visual distortion in that area. I could just say I'm defining an additional area which matches here on some weird garbled text, and I'm going to make that a workaround needle with a new text and an according bug reference here. Then both those needles would match. I mean, right? The previous needle did match. You just found that visual bug on top, and you want that bug to be recorded. You want the bug to be referenced in the job, despite the job continuing functional, right? Then the soft failure workaround needle will be preferred from it. Now, if you don't want to do that because you say, well, the bug has been fixed, or we have to accept that garbled text, it's a won't fix, well, you need to delete the needle. Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But it sounded a bit surprising to you, wasn't it?
Well, the rationale behind it can go both ways. That's why I was asking. It makes sense in that way, but
yes,
it can also go the other way.
exactly. I would say you could also design it in the other way, and there's always a way to achieve. In the other case, you just have to know how it works. All right. Let's go back to the Excel test results. So what we have seen is that we have this soft failure. So we have that soft failure reference here in Just Coder. Let's take a look. Is there any additional soft failure? No, there isn't. Now, there are other use cases for soft failure which are actually not visible here. Can you think of a way how we could use soft failure which is actually not used? So I would like to show you one case that's actually a new issue which seems to have popped up in this night. And let's say that I know that this is a bug, and I don't see it as possible to solve that with a workaround needle or a change in the test code. What I could do is I could use third way to define, and that's using comments. Taking a look on the right hand side of the comment dialog, that there are multiple labels. The first one is to add a generic label. It would look something like that. The second way would be to add a force result, which is a special label, so it's also starting with label. With that one, it says new result here. And I can actually put soft failed here. And the description or bug ref, where let's say, let me create a new ticket. Has failed since when in home login dialog. Well, I shouldn't write that on my own. I should rather use this dialog to report a new test issue. And fails in here trying to log in normal dialog crashed or something. Bug isn't really with good nice details because I'm doing it now a bit shortened in multiple jobs in the same build. So in every job occurrence. And the last good reference, fine, because that was built yesterday, making that an urgent theme. So actually the two should take a look at that today. And then I can create that. Then that comment dialog, I can like put this reference. And if I do that, you can also see that this is detected as something special. It has a link to that ticket. If I refresh the current page, then you see that by magic it turned soft failed. That approach is commonly not used in something like a Tumbleweed or LibReview because it's not needed there. Normally, if tests failed, then test is fixed, or in exception, then the test manager is instructed by its own mean treat the failure as not blocking a release. But if we would take a look in something like the maintenance test, then we would see that actively. Now there is one note regarding soft failures and test issues. What is your feeling? Should we use soft failure references to test issues normally or not? I would say that's up to the according team and owners of a certain product area, how they would like to treat it. I would say soft failures are should be primarily used for product issues. If there's a real issue pointing to a bug in the product that you want to be tested. That's when you have something like, in our case, or in case of openSUSE, that would be a reference to Bugzilla. If it's about a test issue, then maybe that's not such a good idea. And also here, if I would use that soft failure on all the jobs in the current build, well, you can see that many modules have actually not been tested. So I think this is not a good idea here. I will actually delete that. So I can make that failed again, right? Can I actually delete that or prevent? We don't prevent that. Maybe because I actually made it failed. So this is just a plain bug ref now. Because, well, those openQA and openQA tests, they are used as part of a release pipeline. And if I would overrule all results from the current failures, there are only OK jobs remaining, which would mean passed or soft failed, then we would actually release that new version of it. Now it doesn't look like openQA actually broke because it fails in a, let's say, in a test setup step. So before have a chance to test openQA properly, but actually we don't know if openQA works fine. And I would say because we, as the maintainer of openQA, but also the maintainer of this test distribution, are the same group, we should put priority on making, well, actually fixing the test failures. It would still be beneficial to have a ticket reference like this because there's also automatic investigation, which is triggered here. Then openQA tests that and sees that the last good build is actually fine. And this is likely not a sporadic failure, which I agree with, but we are conducting those investigation tests in all those cases. So it's good to have a ticket reference. Wait, the ticket reference. Jan was very quick to pick that up. Thank you. So we do have a ticket reference now in all those tests. So now not more um, investigation jobs are triggered. However, the job will stay failing and it will block the release of new openQA packages to Tumbleweed, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay. So what else? Uh, I mentioned how to use, when to use limitations. I would say I'm done here. What are your experiences, questions, notes, corrections, wishes? Yep, Phoenix.
I know this is a delicate topic because soft failures are often used or often misused in order to flag some state of the test runs,
Hmm?
which shouldn't be soft failures, but due to missing other means, they are often used as some kind of warnings, let's say it this way. For a
Right?
state in which a test run is in a state where, from the perspective of the test code, it is like, okay, I cannot make a decision here if this is failed or not failed, and I would like to have a human have a look at this one. What would be, from your side, the recommended way of handling such situations?
You say a human reviewer should take a look on it, but
Yes.
how was the soft failure introduced then originally?
I'm just saying that often soft failures are used in such scenario just to flag a state in a test run so that it doesn't appear green, but it appears orange.
Mm-hmm.
And reviewers should know then, okay, this one I should review. And I'm just asking because this is a
Yeah.
misuse of soft failure. What would be a better way of handling situations where from the test code you situation, but I need to notify someone to have.
So let's take a look on what record soft failure states. So use this to mark where workarounds are applied, takes an optional reason string, which is recorded in the log failure. So the API doesn't describe that you need to provide a bug reference. Okay, that's, I would say, up to how you would like to handle it in the according product. In the main test distribution of OS Audience History OpenSUSE in our store, um, there are more strict guidelines applied there. So I think it's mentioned here. Here, please add a bug ticket reference for record soft failure. Otherwise, the iChecks may fail. So I would say that's pretty clear. It also explains a reference. If you don't have a ticket reference and still want to mark a specific step as soft fail, please use record info with soft fail tag, which is more or less in line with what the documentation, the upstream documentation says here. Use record info when the status should not be influenced. So when you don't want to mark the complete job as soft failed.
But I do, because I do want
Yeah.
to notify. Yeah.
So again, the upstream documentation doesn't tell you that you need to do that you need to have a product reference. I mean, I'm fully aligned with. I mean, I put in that rule in also in history of SUSE that every use of record soft failure must use a bug ticket reference. So, as you rightly explained it, not doing that is already abusing what we have defined as the guideline. And there is the only other way is record info, which, as you explained, doesn't influence the overall job result. Well, I don't know how to better distinguish. I mean, you can just make a job fail on purpose, so that's the alternative. But maybe, Pablo, maybe you can give an answer.
Uh, I don't have answer. Just a quick related question. Are you aware that? I mean, I agree with this rule, But are you aware that there are fake tickets just to be used in a soft failures where
Yes,
you, yeah, well,
I'm
so
aware. There are also people on the road robbing you. It doesn't mean that I think that this is the right approach. I
yeah.
you already phrased it fake tickets. I mean, would you like to um, me to say? I mean, having people come up with such a need means that there's either a misunderstanding or there is understanding of how it works and there's a certain need which cannot be fulfilled by the current implementation. But I don't want to introduce something like a soft fail. I don't think anybody thinks that would be helpful. uh, so I don't know. I'm open to suggestions how we could solve that. So Phoenix, let me ask you again. So you would like a job to be reviewed by a human reviewer, but probably not in the same step when the human reviewer is needing to find out unknown failures like failed jobs which don't have any ticket reference yet, right?
Well, yes and no. To answer you directly, no. It's the that would be misusing of the soft failures, which are there for resolving a different purpose.
Yeah.
But it's what you said before. It's all misuse of soft failures, which I agree that is the case in this case. But it is often because of not having a different other possibility. And
Yes, I
yeah,
get that. And I think the what might be missing is not a separate state in the jobs itself, but rather a mean to find special reference, like have a page which would show you all um, noteworthy warnings. It's the same as errors in warnings in logs or from compiler. The, the GCC compiler has warnings and it has a huge load of flags depending on your preferences. You would like to would go like really strict, treat all warnings the same as errors. That's what we commonly do in our uh, development environments. You could also ignore those warnings completely, which I guess many people do because they don't them as necessary to be fixed at all or standard. And then there are all those gray areas in between where you can choose some warnings as special and some others as not. And you would then probably say, well, something like errors need to be treated by every developer before submitting a pull request, and warnings we take a look in as part of another process. That could be something where you say, like, after you all errors on a daily base, look at warnings, maybe have another person assigned to that. And
But
yeah,
but there are reminders about warnings which are still referenced in the tests, right?
yes,
So those are helpful in my opinion. And in general, I think that, well, the situation is not that bad, and it really also is on the team to try to mitigate soft failures. And it's each team has this differently, so it's, yeah. I don't see this as that big issue.
Well, maybe not that big of an issue, but we are here to talk about soft failures, so I think it's a good question that
Yeah,
came
yeah.
up with, and uh, yeah, but you brought me to another question. So what's let's start like this. How does the process look like for treating failed jobs in Tumbleweed? How does the process look? You know, in a simplified.
Well, in Tumbleweed, there is a reviewer, right?
Yeah,
That reviewer will create a bug, and then the reviewer will try to take the right people who can help with that bug, right?
yeah.
And that's it.
And what happens with the Tumbleweed builds? I mean, we can take a look on the job group page, and
Mm,
we see published, 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 and the messages from Insta and such. So apparently, those failures are not preventing the release, right?
isn't it case by case? I mean,
It is case by case, exactly.
yeah.
So there is the to test manager bot, and what that one does, it remembers notes from the reviewers. When the reviewers say like, okay, there is a bug, but whenever that bug appears, don't block the release. Okay, or rather, the release should not be blocked on that issue. As, meaning, if there are no critical blocking left, and all had been added to that acceptance list, to that ignore list, then the build can be released. And that happens, I would say, build by build every day. How does the review look like for soft failed? So what's the process around those?
They are just ignored, aren't they?
Okay, so what's the difference of soft failed to passed?
None. Like just the color. And that
Okay,
in there's tickets for those, and then there is reminders, but like from which point of view? I mean, from the
yeah,
reviewer's point of view, none, I would say. Just the color.
yes.
Or am I not
No,
right?
I think you're spot on. I think you're right that from the point of view of the daily reviewer of a build, there is no difference between passed and soft failed. It doesn't concern their jobs, but as pointed out, there are reminders to the corresponding ticket, assuming that those tickets exist and assuming that we follow this rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I assume is the case for most of those instances. So
You
it
know,
does
but
make a difference, and because there is a comment on the according progress ticket, and assuming that that comment actually makes a difference for the people, to be realistic, for some of the people they ignore it, some others don't ignore it, so it does serve a purpose, right?
yeah, but I think that you know the reviewer of the tumbleweed builds cannot take care of everything. So
Yes,
so it's I think that the process is yeah. I mean yeah.
I think it's fine
There
because
needs to be either team or at least
yes,
some user caring about that test, that package, or, and yeah, then
yeah, I would say those different states address different roles. But I mentioned a role which is a daily reviewer.
uh
Okay, So a daily reviewer doesn't need to take care about the soft fails. A person that takes care of the overall quality of Tumbleweed should be aware about it. Okay, it can be the same person. It doesn't have to be the same person, but at least if it would be the same person, then it would be some kind of context which they do in their mind. Something like, okay, I reviewed all unknown new failures. There's nothing critical. Maybe now I have time to take a look at the overall state of the product and its soft fails. And so that would be a different workflow. And maybe this overview page in openQA doesn't help you that much for that purpose. You already stated we have reminders on progress tickets. So that's already a different role that's addressed here. It's like the ticket followers, which are mentioned here, and kind of event based. So you don't need to regularly schedule that. You can just wait for what such messages arrive in your email inbox and check those things. Now, Phoenix, you mentioned there's cases where you want somebody to be informed. The question that I have to you, would you like to inform? Is it really the daily reviewer that's taking a look for the unknown critical issue? Or is it the soft failure reviewer? Or is it maybe somebody else?
What about the maintainer of the package, of the test module? Sorry, Felix.
I go to Oliver's question. Yes, the daily reviewer. That is the use case for 90% of the cases. The issue, or the main issue that you would try to solve at this point is really, okay, I as the test code, I cannot make the distinction if this is a failure or not, and I need a human to have a look at this.
What do you mean with failure? Is failure as in this is a horrible critical issue? If you release a product with that, then there would be an outcry and people will never use Tumbleweed again?
A hypothetical scenario. You need to test a program and the expected output is A. And you know that the program is broken if the output is B. Now the program spits out output C, which could be a warning or whatever. And I, as the test code, I cannot make the distinction. Is this now a failure? Or is this just something randomly introduced, but it's not a failure? It's just something new that I do not know. And I would need a human to have a look at this. Then I can make the distinction, okay, I'm just going to fail randomly, but you have occasional just states where you are like, okay, this fails so often that it doesn't make sense to fail this always. And this is one of the cases where I'm like, okay, just go mild here and notify a human to make the distinction for you. But don't fail, because this is otherwise too much.
Right. I would say, and that's not really like openQA specific. This is general concept regarding automated tests. Is the primary use of automated tests is regression testing. So the question that anybody introducing changes to the test code must keep in mind is think of the daily reviewer reviewing 500 tests. Obviously, they cannot have that technical insight into the individual application as much as you can have. If they would see a failure popping up today, by general, that should tell them you cannot release today because yesterday something was still fine and today something is broken. And it does not sound like the case that you described would fall into that category, right? If it would fall in that category of yesterday it was working, today it isn't working anymore, then the correct call would be to call die in test module fails. I mean, it can still continue the other modules if it works to snapshot, and then one can still decide to overrule that based on the failure that is found, but that's the default.
Okay, different use case, because that was one of the problems that we had in virtualization. You have the preparation job all test runs depend on this one, and one of the test run takes 8 hours to complete.
Yeah.
In this case, you don't have the luxury to fail on every unexpected situation, but you need to run the things through, otherwise you will not be able to do the testing in the due time.
Exactly.
And you need to go a little bit mild on the reviewers and those things and be like, okay, yeah, this is a situation where I really cannot make the decision in actually failing, but I also cannot stop at this point.
Yes. Then use record info. And then query for all jobs with record info. Any kind of special tag that you'd like to come. Because you cannot solve that just programmatically and you haven't found the process how to handle those. So maybe it makes sense to solve that question is design the process. How does the process look like? How do you bring actual humans and people together? On which cadence, which schedule? Is it event-based? Do you tell them over email? And then do that. So can you show how to do query over record info? No, actually, I cannot do that right now. I wouldn't know how to do that exactly. I would say you can query the jobs API and then can look for all jobs in a certain state and then decide which one you want to look into, and then you need to make a decision on what to do with those results. And again, that very much depends on how the process looks like. That makes sense?
Since we are already here, doesn't this all motivate to introduce some kind of features for the, I don't know, how for the test runs to, let's say, increase the interaction possibilities that it has with a human? I mean, following this discussion, this looks very much like that the automate only approach works, but it also has its limitations. And the approach of bringing the human reviewers and the machine testable code closer together by make every decision that a machine can make, but also give some more tools for, let's say, human review and those things might be a tool that is appreciated by a lot of people.
Yes, so something like a separate report for a certain purpose.
For instance, as one of the ideas, yes.
Yeah, guys, go on. So, Mama, speak up. Yeah, all right. I guess we can continue at some point with this idea, specifically about the aspect that you brought up about giving it a different angle of that connection group of users in a special role. So let's think about that, and then eventually, I guess we could follow up. With that, I would like to conclude the topic about soft failures. We have one appointment before we go Christmas break. So, are there specific proposals for the next that you would like to have discussed, or that you would?
Okay, let's wait a moment. Mama has wrote that he or she has audio issues.
Yeah.
So perhaps we still want to say something.
if it is possible, and if you are able to hear me now.
Sounds good.
Very good. Yes, I was saying that from a previous experience, not using openQA, using something else, but the concept is the same. Uh, I mean, test results are not only always pass or fail. No, sometimes it's really interesting to look at some, I don't know, metrics. No, was
Yeah.
and was like this. We have some boundary, so over some threshold, the test can be decided to be failed. But we have another tool, a different one, showing us not just green and red, and was about showing metrics. And so we know, for example, we was approaching to memory exhaustion, or all the flash is full, or I don't know,
Right.
stuff
So
like this.
something noteworthy, but in a different kind of report, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Good point. So, guys, some ideas for the next meeting?
Here,
would be
mama. I'm experimenting with GitHub. How it's called, the working development environment within the browser. Code
Nice.
space is called,
Yes.
and I'm trying to create a configuration that is suitable for OS Autoinst repository. So with all the tool to be able to run make test.
Hmm.
Could be
that would
interesting.
be cool to see.
So
Yes,
At least
we
from my
already
point of
did
view.
that some time ago. If so, would you like that we give it a try together in
Let's see.
joint session?
Was there a session about this, Oliver?
I don't remember. I could look it up, but let's just say that next week we will try out together. Okay?
okay, good for me.
Can observe different. Good idea. So, right, we will do that. Thanks to that. With that, I'd like to stop the recording here and say thank you and goodbye.